Damn, that's a lot going on right there.
It's not even trivia, and you've managed to interrupt already. That's impressive.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome to Vikings Report Live with Drew, Ted, the fearless leader from Daily Norseman, Christopher Gates, and Toonces. Drewster, how are you, my friend?
What? Glover, how about that tech noir music to open it up along with the Vikings report, dude? That was crazy.
We were in Club Druminations on Fifth Avenue in New York City, man.
That was nuts, dude.
People were passing me Eck, baby. Chris, how are you doing?
I am doing all right, guys. I am happy as hell to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Chris Gates!
Going to get us ready for the 2021 season.
Yeah, so Toonces, I hope you're there, and I hope you're doing okay. I know you don't want to say much tonight, but we just want to say hello. Thanks for setting all this up, and I hope you're doing well, too.
Thank you.
Hey, Toonces.
All right. We've got day one. Folks, we have real live football taking place today. The Minnesota Vikings opened their 2021 training camp. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just going to take it one day at a time, and I feel like I'm in the best shape of my career. How about you, Chris?
Well, just got to wake up and keep grinding, keep doing whatever we need to do. Just got to get a little better every day. And, yeah, that's the goal. That's the
Drew,
goal. We got to get better.
Give me your cliche of the day.
My cliche, what would it be? Chris Gates, you should consider yourself lucky that you're not a calendar. You know why?
Not sure this is much of a cliche, but Joe, go ahead.
Because your days would be numbered.
Okay, stop. All right,
that
we're
didn't
done.
go over well. You know
no,
what?
It didn't. It dropped like a bomb, but that's okay.
This show's live, right?
It is live right now.
That means there's nobody editing. Usually 60% of what we talk about gets cut out. So
yeah, you bombed in like front of a dozen people.
I bombed it worse than that in front of a lot more. Believe me.
We got a lot going on. As we know, the Vikings started training camp. They reported yesterday, had their first practice today. We've got several storylines we need to cover. The first one we're going to talk about is Vikings offensive, what is he now? Senior offensive advisor, Rick Dennison. He started the week, if you remember, as the Vikings offensive line coach. And then as the players reported, he had the report was he was out. He did not, he's a tier one, he's part of the NFL's tier one personnel. They're all required to get the COVID vaccine. He did not. So he was like initially fired, but then they pulled that back and no, we're trying to figure out a role for him. And he became, I believe the official title is the senior offensive advisor. And the Vikings have a new offensive line coach in Phil Rosher with assistant offensive line coach Ben Steele. Chris, what were your thoughts when you heard about the whole Dennison saga and how it all played out in the end?
I thought it was a little, I understand the NFL's rules behind it and everything. And, there's the league's going to do what the league's going to do. Obviously it's not ideal for the Vikings to lose their offensive line coach at this point, just this close to the start of camp. I think that Rick Dennison has officially gotten to the Mike Singletary / Dwight Schrute level of job title here. He's not the assistant offensive line coach. He's the assistant to the offensive line coach at this point. So they'll be talking about what kind of bear would make the best offensive lineman and that kind of thing. And yeah, it was just weird. And, we'll see how the Vikings adjust.
Drew, you what did you think when you heard Dennison was out and then he's back in? He's got like an advisor role and so on and so forth. What did you make of that whole situation?
Do we really need to have 3 offensive line coaches? That's my first thought about the whole thing. Really? 3? Do we have to have? Is there 3 now?
Well, technically, he's.
Come on, man.
If you remember when Gary Kubiak first got hired back in, was it 2018? I think it was 2017, 2019.
Yeah.
He was an offensive assistant head coach and offensive advisor. So he didn't really have a position he was in charge of other than helping the defense or helping the offense game plan and do what they do. So I think that's kind of the role Dennison is moving to, because he's not going to be on the field every day with the players because he can't. as a tier 2 or whatever he is now.
They had so he got released. Dennison got released, and then he came back. So whatever the reason he got released for, it all could have been figured out before he got released. I mean, is that what I'm? Now he's back. He got released. Now he's back, or he quit. Now he's back.
Yeah,
whatever loophole they found. Why didn't they find that before they went public with letting him go? I don't get it.
I don't think anybody really knows what's going on. I mean, they had months to figure this out, and like 3 days before camp, it's like, oh crap, this is due tomorrow. What do we do? I mean, but, it just seems weird that they couldn't get it all ironed out before now.
Here's the thing that struck me, and I know the situations are completely different, and I don't mean to compare a guy having to be reassigned for COVID compared to somebody dying. But if you guys remember when Tony Sperano passed away right before training camp a couple years ago, it threw the whole coaching staff into turmoil. And on a much lesser degree, I mean, nobody died, and that's the important thing we need to remember here. But it looked, you still have a key component of the coaching staff no longer really on the coaching staff in his original capacity. I mean, it'd be like, Drew, you used to play in a band, you bass guy. Now, hey, you're gonna be kicked up to manager, and I don't know, somebody else is gonna come play bass. Well, you can go and you can advise them how to play and how to do what they do all night long, but they still have to go out and do it. Yeah. And so I kind of look at it that way, in that way. But on the flip side, if you want to talk about how bad the Vikings offensive line is, the optimist can say, well, hey, Rick Dennison is going to be able to touch and put his hands on and put his meat hooks on our offensive linemen and screw them up anymore. So maybe a guy like, Phil Rauscher can bring out some talent.
The great Phil Rauscher.
Yeah, I mean, we know better than to say it can't get any worse, because we thought that with Pat Elflein last year, and then Drew Samia came in, and it got worse. And like you said, Dennison hasn't been great or anything. He was just part of that Denver Mafia crew that came over in 2019. But yeah, we'll see if Rauscher can get a little more mileage out of these guys than what they've been getting so far.
Well, he had 1 year as an offensive line coach. Real quick, Drew. He had 1 year as an offensive line coach with the Washington, then at the time the Washington Redskins, now Washington football team. That offense was 22nd in the run, dead last in the pass. Of course, their quarterbacks were Alex Smith and Dwayne, I don't care, Haskins. Just cash my check. And they gave up 50 sacks. So, but now Rauscher comes in. He's got an assistant in Ben Steele, who was a special teams guy, special teams coordinator down at Auburn, I believe it was, in the SEC. Drew, what were you going to say, man?
I don't know. I can't remember what I was going to say. That was a long time ago. It just seems like pre-season, pre-Vikings, something always happens going into the season, doesn't it? Teddy Bridgewater and Sperano, and here we go. There always has to be some kind of obstacle to head into the season, and I don't know. I don't think it's really should be that big of a deal. There's a lot involved to the offensive line when you get that group going. Either they got it or they don't, but it's going to be mostly carried by the dudes that are already there. And it's one of my points of concern. Later, we're going to talk about the 3 points that we're most concerned about. Offensive line is one of them for me, but it has been for years. So this isn't anything new to any of us, is it?
So are you guys on board with then with Dennison being like the senior offensive advisor to
what is the role? Give me what is he doing? What is the exact name of what he's doing?
I believe the official title is senior offensive advisor. So he's going to help install the game plan.
Be kind of a mentor
already to Clint Kubiak. I don't know.
Do we have 4 of those already or not?
I think the biggest role he's going to play is, from what I've seen people talk about, is he's going to be kind of the guy with Gary Kubiak not being there, being the guy who's going to hold the younger Kubiak's hand a little bit, because this is his first go as offensive coordinator, and he's familiar with Dennison. So, that would probably give him a little bit of a comfort level. I don't know how much that's going to translate into anything positive on the field, but that's just what, my gut instinct on that is.
Dan Hanneman in the comments says run game coordinators where Dennison will probably be missed the most. I think he will still do a lot of the run game installation. The Vikings have a very good running attack. Rick Dennison was a large part of that. So I don't think that will be as big of a loss as if he were still out on the field as the offensive line coach. But I agree with you, Drew, man. This is something, and Chris, I think you mentioned it first. This was something they could have hashed out 3 months ago, and they could have had a new transition in place or a new staff in place, working with the offensive line and going from there. But what would the Vikings training camp be without a goofy, dumb storyline like this?
Goofy and dumb. Goofy and dumb. We don't want goofy and dumb. We want no excuses. But that was one of my other ones. Was number 2 on my list was going to be the OC, but we'll get to that later.
So something that was not goofy and dumb, and I'd kind of been advocating for this for most of the offseason. The Vikings, and Drew and I have talked about this on Vikings Report. We're kind of been doing every week. We talk about a different position group, and we talked about wide receivers a while back. We talked about how there was just a scary lack of depth past Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Amir Smith-Marset looks promising as a draft pick, but after that, there was not a whole lot. Drew, this week the Vikings went out and signed Dede Westbrook 1 year, just over $1 million. What kind of impact do you think he will have on the Vikings wide receivers and the offense overall?
I think it will have a great impact. I don't think he was used all that well at Jacksonville. I know his numbers weren't that great, and everybody seems a little down about the signing, but I did like 2 or 3 draft write-ups on Dede Westbrook when he was in Oklahoma, and I wanted the Vikings to draft him. That's how high I thought of him back when that was all happening. He reminded me a lot of Deebo Samuel, if you remember him from South Carolina, who went to, I believe, the 49ers. Just one of those real creative guys after he gets the ball in his hand. And the way just the way he plays overall, he always seems like one of those guys that could get the extra yards. And he did a lot with the football. You could use him on bubble screens and weird plays and gadget plays. I don't think Jacksonville used him to his potential. So I'm pretty fired up about getting Dede Westbrook here. I wanted that guy to be a Viking, like I said, when he came out in the draft. So,
Chris?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of works in. We have to remember that he did tear an ACL last year, and he's still kind of working his way back from that. So I'm not sure how quickly he's going to jump into the offense or anything like that. I think the big place where Dede Westbrook is going to help the Vikings is on punt returns, because they were the worst punt return unit in the league. KJ Osborne was awful at the best of times. I mean, I guess he's getting praise from the coaches in camp now, but last year he was terrible. And Westbrook has been a really good punt returner the entire time he's been in the NFL. So that would be a huge help to the Vikings, even if he did manage to lose the number 3 spot to like a Smith-Marset or something like that. I think he would be a solid punt return guy right away. And that would be worth the money just in and of itself.
Speaking of which, if you had KJ Osborne as your first overhyped player of Minnesota Vikings training camp, come on down, collect your prize, because everybody was talking about what a great offseason he had last year. Show me. What was it? What was it Mike Zimmer said? Don't tell me about the labor. Show me the baby.
Show me the baby.
So we'll see. But KJ Osborne, officially your first overhyped player of 2021 Vikings training camp.
One yard of return last year or something? What was the average?
I think he had more fumbles than actual returns. I mean, the guy, there was one stretch, it seemed like he fumbled like 3 or 4 straight games.
I don't know who's been around longer, KJ Osborne or that bag of chips sitting behind Chris Gates' dome right now. Yeah, I still see it, that Tostitos bag.
It's still there.
It was
damn right it's still there.
It's got that in 1984. If you ate one of those now, you'd be flying high again.
You want to talk about stuff still being on the shelf? How about that for a segue? How about Jalen Twyman? So Jalen Twyman.
Oh, my boy!
Real quick review. 6th round draft pick through no fault of his own, just kind of a wrong place at the wrong time. Was shot 4 times in Maryland when he was visiting a relative. Thankfully, they're superficial wounds, but when he reported to camp, the Vikings put him on waivers with a non-football injury designation. They reclaimed him off waivers, and he is now on the reserve non-football injury list. Drew, you are huge Jalen Twyman guy.
Still am.
what are your thoughts on Twyman being, because you had him making the final 53, which throws your whole defensive line group in disarray. What do you think? First of all, let me ask, do you think Twyman will play this year?
No, I think this will be like a redshirt year for him.
Okay.
But I did feel he was going to make the starting 53, but I thought his playing time would be real limited to start the season, maybe up to the first half of the season. I mean, just not a lot of snaps for the guy, but got to keep him because he's got a lot of potential, Ted. I'm never going to change it. He was my fourth defensive tackle on the Drew Big Board out of all the defensive tackles. He's right behind Barmore and those guys.
Okay.
He can't somehow he hopefully will sneak by waivers since so many people passed on him in the draft. It shouldn't be a problem, but
he did. He's already on the Vikings non-football injury list.
I think you could chalk this up as a redshirt season for Twyman and look forward to 2022. But I still think he's going to do a lot of special things for the Vikings, and I still think he's a hell of a player. The tape don't lie. The tape does not lie.
Chris, what do you think on Twyman? Good call. Do you think he plays this year? Do you think, because for those of you that are not aware, for a player to be put on the reserve non-football injury list, he is out at least through week 8. After 6 weeks through the regular season, the Vikings can activate him. They have up to 3 weeks to put him on the active roster. If they do not activate him or they do not put him on the active roster within that 3-week window, he stays on the NFI list for the rest of the year. Very similar to injured reserve eligible to return, much like Chad Beebe will be on probably tomorrow. So, Chris, what do you think on Twyman?
I kind of agree with Drew. I don't think he plays this year. I think he would have made the final roster as well if he would have been able to go. But yeah, I don't think he plays. I mean, maybe if things just go way out of control, way south for the Vikings, and they're not really a factor toward the end of the season, they figure out a way to get him in there. But I mean, I don't think he plays. But I do agree with Drew after listening to you guys talk about him and watching some of his video and whatever. I think he's going to be a player for this team in the future. It's just not going to be this season, I don't think.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of swim upstream against you guys in this one.
There's Ted, always going against the sheriff. Ted, always swimming upstream.
I think he's going to heal, and I think the Vikings are going to activate him, and he's going to see some game time at the end of the year.
Well, swim upstream all you want with that.
He's not going to make a lot of. I don't think he's going to make a huge impact. I didn't really see him making a huge impact, even if he came into camp healthy and made the 53, which I thought he would. But I see him I mean, the kid, I don't know if you've seen videos of him on Twitter and wherever, the kid is just a dynamo. He has this, I'm not going to be denied kind of mentality. It seems like, and I think he gets activated and sees the field this year. I'm going to, you know what? Every week we do, since we're leading up to the regular season, we have this over under feature. I'm gonna set real quick. You guys are gonna do a quick over under. Well, no, you guys are already under. I was gonna set the over under at 4 games played, and I'm gonna go over on Twyman playing 4 games. That's just me.
I like that. If Twyman had a little bit bigger build, it's his size that scares everybody. If he had a little bit bigger build, he would have been talked about as being a top 10 guy in the whole draft.
Now,
but don't let the size fool you, man. That guy is baby Aaron Donald. I'm telling you, he's going to be a star in this league. You can mark my words on that. You can do whatever. You can say whatever you want about me. Mark it down. You
have consistently said that since day one.
Yep.
Since day one, you have said that. But now that was not our regular over under. We are still doing our over under feature. And Drew, and for those of you that are unaware, Drew, why don't you go ahead and take over and explain what the over-under contest is and give us your over-under for this week.
It's time for the over-under. We are at week 4 of our Vikings Report extravaganza over-under contest. We ask one question a week. You either pick over or under. You don't need to do any math. It's very simple. Pick over, under. You put it in the comments below this show. It's the only way you can enter. It's not on Twitter. It's not on our YouTube page. It's the only way you can enter. But we are at week 4. Everybody's been pretty consistent on the first 3 weeks. I got a lot of the same names, which is good because you're going to need to pile up wins. And whoever has the most over under correct answers at the end of the season, when all this comes to fruition, then you will receive a prize. And we will be announcing that prize in the next couple weeks. And it is a killer prize. So today we will be announcing question number 4 in our over-under. And it is, since we did Justin Jefferson last week, we did Cousins the first week, Cook the second week, JJ last week. We go to the other wide receiver, Adam Thielen. And question 4 out of the 10, we'll be asking 10 total questions up till kickoff with Cincinnati once a week. The question this week is for Adam Thielen. Over under total receptions for the 2021 regular season, 80.5. We do the 0.5 to clear up any ties that might happen. So that's your question for the week. 80.5. Over, under. You have to give me a guess on whether you think Adam Thielen will be over or under 80.5 catches for the regular season. And I don't hear Ted anymore.
You're muted, Ted.
Oh, how about now?
There you go.
All employees and family members of Vikings Report are ineligible for the prize. So Chris, over under, Thielen over under for 80.5.
As much as I love Adam Thielen, I'm probably going to have to go under on this one. I think Justin Jefferson continues to emerge as wide receiver 1. I think Irv Smith plays a much bigger role in the offense this year. And I just don't think there's going to be quite as many targets available for Thielen as we've been accustomed to him seeing over the years. So yeah, I think it's not going to be under by much, but I think it's going to be under. I'd probably put him at like 74 or 75 ish.
I'm going to go under as well. And although I agree with a lot of your reasoning, I also think, and I meant to mention this during the D.D. Westbrook segment, that now that the Vikings have a legitimate wide receiver 3, I think Westbrook is going to take some catches away from both Jefferson and Thielen. I don't think, the Vikings ran, 3 wide receiver sets. I think it was like 29 or 30% of the time last year, last in the NFL. I think that number is still going to be pretty low, but it's going to go up. And I think it's going to be just enough to take away Adam Thielen from getting 80 receptions. He's still going to have a lot. I think he's going to have a good year.
You guys are pretty smart, man.
So now for the over under. So we're running it a little bit different because we've got the live show going on. Normally you only have a few days, but we are going to since we're doing back-to-back live shows again, we're doing this next Wednesday as well. You have all week. You can put your comments in here on the live comment thread, but after the show, we're going to put the comments, or we're going to put the show up, and we're going to have a regular comment format system as well, like we normally do for our regular episodes. You can put the comment in there. So if you don't want to do it now, you can do it later. But comments in here, comments in the regular YouTube thread, you have until next Wednesday at noon to put your entry in. Wednesday at noon Central Time.
Plus, next week's live show, we're going to have another question. So,
yes.
Okay, just to keep everybody. I know it's kind of weird how we're throwing a wrench into everything, but the questions must continue because the season has to continue.
The show must go on.
I am taking the over because
are you really?
I am not going to sit here on this show and have Ted Glover be the only one that gets to swim upstream. Not going to happen. There's no swimming upstream without the Drewster.
All right, Katie Ledecky, go get your gold medal.
Well, you know what? He had 74 last year. So with the extra game, I'm thinking he can do the over.
That's a reasonable assumption. I mean, it is. See, that 17th game is going to throw a lot of extra thinking into this whole over-under contest.
But you are absolutely right about the Westbrook catches. I did not factor that into when I came up with the number, but it's a fair number, don't you think?
I think so. It's a very fair number.
I'm fair to everybody. We're fair on it. We give on this show. We're givers.
Okay, so that's our over-under for the week. Moving right along, one of the other features we've been doing leading up to the regular season and training camp is we are taking a look at all the Minnesota Vikings draft picks, and we're kind of doing a deep dive on them. And this week, and with that, we're looking at that position group that draft pick belongs to that we're talking about. So this week, we are looking at 4th round pick, number 119 overall, number 1 in your program, number 1 in your heart, the one, the only from Iowa State. And I'm going to butcher this name, man. Kene Wangwu.
Butchered to the max. You butchered it worse than the butcher on Brady Bunch.
Chris, is that even close?
I think that's relatively close. I'm not 100% sure, but it's better than I would have done.
I mean,
no, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm going to put a motion out on the floor that we just call him Kenny Wang Chung, because everybody Wang Chung tonight. Everybody have fun tonight.
Kenye Wangu.
Kenye Wangu. Okay.
But I like Wang Chung. Let's go Wang Chung on the
Kenny Wang Chung.
Yeah.
Everybody get down to.
So he's one of the faster dudes in the NFL, because on Twitter today, I was following, as practice was going on, and there was more than one person that said, "Oh, by the way, this guy is lightning fast." So, Drew, what are some of your delicious tidbits on Kenny Wang Chung?
Kenny Wang Chung. Whether he makes a team or not, that'll be his name throughout history with the Vikings. Kenny Wang Chung. I didn't do a specific draft write-up on Wangu, but doing research on the guy and watching his tape, that dude is a blazer, dude. He's an ultimate kickoff return specialist. He ran a ton back for Iowa State. I'm just surprised they didn't get more work at running back. And I know they had Montgomery, and they had another guy that you mentioned yesterday that were in front of him. Mm-hmm. But 143 carries over 48 games is not a lot of carries. So in terms of how the Vikings look at it, there's a lot of radial tire left on the tire of Wang Chung. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of usage on him. So he comes in pretty fresh and fast. You want to talk about fast? Playoffs? You want to talk about playoffs? You want to talk about fast? Sorry, just reminded me of that. Drove it off into a ditch. His second 40 time at his pro day, they run 2 or 3 of them. His second 40 time at his pro day, he ran a 4.29. And you guys know, if you follow 40 times, you're getting into the 4.2 anything, you're getting into record area. The record that was set by John Ross in 2017 for 4.22. That damn near close to that. He ran a 4.29 his pro day for his 40. Blazing fast, man. The guy just hauls ass. So
is he a pure speed guy? Is he like,
he's not
off tackle, outside on the edge sort of guy?
He's like a Jet McKinnon type of guy. Maybe not as good at receiving skills. He only caught 7 passes at Iowa State the whole time he was there.
Okay.
But he got used mostly in special teams when he was at Iowa State. And I'm not sure if it was the depth at running back that was the deal there, but the time, this is what I want to point out with this guy. He didn't get a lot of work there at running back, right? But this is what the number you need to look at with this guy. In 2019, he had a 7.2 yards per carry average. And that was only with 16 carries. He only got the ball 16 times out of the backfield carrying it.
Wow.
And in 2020, he had a 5.6 yards per carry average. So his yards per carry, they're up there, which proves that he does something when he gets the ball. But I'm not really sure why they didn't use him more. Maybe when you guys know more about what his past usage was.
I think a lot of the lack of usage at Iowa State is because last year and this year they'll have him as well. But Iowa State has a running back by the name of Breece Hall,
right?
And Breece Hall led the nation in rushing last year in college. So if you got a guy that's the leading rusher in college football, there's probably not a lot of carries to be had behind him. But I mean, when Wangwu gets the ball, he does stuff with it. Like you said, the kick returns. He's got a pretty solid, yard per touch average, and I think this guy can slot in as the kick return guy immediately for this team with the speed and his ability to get out in the open field and do things.
And Chris, before Hall, there was David Montgomery, who's now in the Bears. He was a starter there at Iowa State. So he's always been fighting for snaps there at Iowa State. Wangu always has been. So there is, I guess that's a good point. It's a good reason he doesn't get on the field a lot. But in terms of kick returns, he's been the starting kick returner there for 3 years. But you know what? This guy tore his what's that? Achilles last stand. Yeah. Tore his Achilles and then came back and ran a 4.29.
That's ridiculous.
After tearing his Achilles.
Yes. I got a better one for you. I got a tasty tidbit.
What's that?
In high school, Wangu, everybody Wang Chung tonight, set the record for rushing yards in a football game when it was below 0 outside. 380 yards and 7 touchdowns in a high school game.
Really?
Dang.
Everybody Wang Chung on that. Let's hear it. 380 yards rushing in one game. So
I think if we all Wang Chung, they're going to shut us down.
Yeah, we can't do that live on YouTube.
Not anymore.
Okay. So you think, do both of you guys think then his primary function right now is more kick return specialist than running back 3?
I think he does both. I think he takes Amir Abdullah's spot because
I do too.
Yeah, Mike Boone has made his way to Denver, so he's not the number 3 guy anymore. And if you can get a guy that does that was what the hell was that? Sweet Jesus, dude!
Is that's really professional?
So go ahead, Chris. So Boone's in Denver. Drew Burton, continue and action.
You are looking live at Vikings Report. Oh my God! But yeah, no, like we said, Mike Boone's in Denver now, and if you can get a guy that does everything that Abdullah does and does it faster and does it cheaper, why would you keep Abdullah around if he's basically redundant at this point to a guy who's younger and faster?
Okay, so this brings up the running back depth. Because currently on the roster, you got Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, the aforementioned Amir Abdullah, A.J. Rose Jr., our obligatory Star Trek red shirt for the week. And
yeah, that guy's beaming down to the planet.
And Kenny Wang Chung. So how many running backs are the Vikings going with, and who are they keeping then? Chris, go.
They keep Cook, they keep Madison, and they keep Wangwu.
That's
and
it.
Amir Abdullah's out, and AJ Rose might be a practice squad guy, but yeah, he's not making the roster.
You think the same thing, Drew? We'll say yes.
No. Listen. What if?
What?
What if Wangu sat down to watch this show and he's going, "That motherfucker's calling me Kenny Wang Chung"?
He's probably not pleased.
I don't want to butcher his name. I'm terrible. I'm so bad with names.
I agree with what Chris just said with the depth chart.
So then
he's number 3. He's number 3. You can get rid of Abdullah. He's nothing anymore, dude.
I mean, the only time Amir Abdullah does anything is when he's playing the Lions, his old team. So
you got to get rid of the old culture, man. He's part of the problem.
I agree. And now then real quick for fullback, they got 2 fullbacks on the roster, Jake Vargas and CJ Ham. Does anybody see Jake Vargas supplanting CJ Ham, barring injury, anything like that?
Nope.
No.
Not a chance.
So the 4 running backs the Vikings are going to have, I think we're all in agreement. Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, Kene, Wangu or Wangwu. I'm being serious here. I'm terrible with the pronunciation.
Good enough.
Okay. And then
Wangu.
And then CJ Ham will be the fullback.
I agree. That's what I think.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Can I throw one little thing out on Wang Chung? His running back coach at Iowa State, a cat by the name of Nate Scheelhaas. The great
Nate Scheelhaas. Yeah, he was a former Illinois quarterback.
Right. He's the running back coach at Iowa State. They asked him about.
He's terrible as a quarterback.
Yeah, he was. He was not good.
Yeah.
They asked him about Wangu's chances in the NFL, and he said, and I quote this: "When he gets his chance in the NFL, you can bet his scorching speed and tireless discipline will speak for itself. There's no question he'll be a game changer." Now, I know it's his coach and everything, but that is a good statement.
Did you ever watch the show Love Connection with Chuck Woolery?
Oh yeah.
Because that was like a guy's description of himself. right before he came on and did the little video intro.
Love connection.
Looking for a love connection.
One goo love connection. Everybody wank Chung. No, he's that change of pace guy we need. We got Cook. Y'all know what Cook does. We don't have to talk. Y'all know what he does. Y'all know what Madison does. Madison's 3 or 4 yards, get you a first down. Well, except for the Seattle run.
Yeah.
This guy's the in-betweener. I don't know. The only thing I'm worried about is receptions. You only had 7 at Iowa State. If you can't learn the receiving skills, it's going to produce a problem. But he's way more exciting than Abdullah Baglada, whatever his name is. He's odd.
That's my thing, because and Drew, on the regular show, we have talked about this a lot, how depth has become such a problem for the Vikings. When Dalvin Cook went down in 2017, they had 2 pretty good running backs in Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray, and they complemented each other pretty well. Murray was more of a straightforward guy. Jet was sort of out of the backfield, kind of a scat back guy. And they really haven't had they had Cook, but they haven't had a really dynamic or effective runner that could spell Cook. Madison is what he is. He's good. He's good between the tackles, I think. He's okay catching balls out of the backfield, but I'm excited about this guy because I think with his speed and his potential, he can really take nothing and turn it into something when the Vikings really need it the most and Cook's on the sideline or whatever the case may be. But that's just me.
If you coach him up right, he can be what, the important thing is a mismatch nightmare. That's what football's about, finding the mismatch. You find the mismatch, that's the teams that find the mismatches are the teams that win.
If you can put him on a linebacker on third
down. Exactly right.
You're going to win, I think.
But he gives you that dynamic that none of the other running backs have. And I think that's why he's going to make the team. I'm really looking forward to see that game, but 17 days away from playing the Broncos. He'll be in that game. He'll be in that game playing. We can all see what's up with his 4.29 speed, man.
Chris, any last thoughts?
No, I mean, I think I agree with you guys on Longwu. I think he's that change of pace guy. If he can, like Drew said, if you can coach him up, he can be the kind of guy that creates real problems for opposing defenses because linebackers and safeties aren't going to be able to run with him. And Drew pointed out that he only had 7 catches in college, but I think that's a skill you can probably learn at the next level. And I'm pretty excited to see what he can do, both as a backup running back and as a returner, because I think he's ultimately going to win the return job. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, plus Marsette's a great returner also, so the Vikings got some returnability going on now.
Good. I hope they got something. I mean, because they desperately need it. That's for sure. So the special teams threat really we didn't talk about a whole lot, but I think he's going to help improve that unit as well. Okay, so kind of our last segment to close things out. I asked a couple days ago, or this is actually Drew's idea, what are your 3 most pressing questions facing the Minnesota Vikings as they enter training camp and then the 2021 season? Drew has kind of given a quick hat tip to his. So we're going to start with the estimable Christopher Gates. Chris, what are your 3 most pressing questions facing the Vikings?
I think one of them has got to be who's starting at the other defensive end spot across from Danielle Hunter. I don't know if it's going to be Stephen Weatherly. I don't know if maybe Patrick Jones or Janarius Robinson takes that spot. But they're going to be able to take advantage of having a lot of other talented guys next to him on the line between Pierce and Tomlinson and Richardson and Danielle Hunter. So that's probably one. We've already touched on the third wide receiver spot. That's probably an important one too. I mean, now we've got Dede Westbrook. I've been big on Amir Smith-Marset since draft time. I think he's got a real opportunity to still win the number 3 spot, even with Dede Westbrook being in the fold here. And the third one has got to be, the same concern we've had every year since 2009 or so, and that's the offensive line. I mean, we invested 2 pretty high picks in Christian Darrisaw, Wyatt Davis. Ezra Cleveland looked solid last year at guard, and Brian O'Neill's been solid at tackle the entire time he's been here. Now you just have to see if the entire unit can gel together. And we say this every year, but the offensive line doesn't have to be like the Cowboys of the 90s or anything like that for this offense to be effective. They just have to actively not suck. And, that's something that's a level they haven't really quite been able to reach the past couple of years. But yeah.
We set extremely high standards for the Vikings offensive line. Well, just don't suck.
Don't be awful.
Just don't suck.
I mean, I don't.
Where have we fallen, man?
I don't. We're taking baby steps, Ted. I don't think it's a big ask.
Let me ask you, Chris. Now we talked about Rick Dennison becoming a senior offensive advisor and Phil Rauscher becoming the O-line coach. I'm serious when I say this. I'm kind of the opinion that I'm glad Dennison has been not fired, but kind of kicked away from the actual day-to-day player development, because I'm not really happy with the way the offensive line has developed. You got guys like Oli Udoh, Pat Elflein, Garrett Bradbury, guys who we thought could develop and become pretty good linemen are not developing or are gone. What do you think Rauscher can reverse that trend and produce good linemen with Davis and Darisaw and Udoh and all the other guys they have there?
I mean, I certainly hope he can. I mean, he went over his track record in Washington, and he wasn't terribly successful with Washington. I'm not sure what their offensive line situation looked like outside of Brandon Scherf. And I mean, I can't even name another one of their offensive linemen outside of Brandon Scherf. So I don't know how much developing he did there necessarily. But I mean, people, used to perpetuate the myth that, Rick Spielman didn't invest in the offensive line. And now the offensive line is going to have 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders and a third-rounder, presumably, as its starters. So the investment's there, and Rauscher is going to get an opportunity to do something with it.
Drew, before you go to your 3 things, what are your thoughts on Rauscher and development of the O-line? Do you like the potential, or do you wish we had that continuity more with Rick Dennison?
Wow, it's really up in the whole thing is up in the air. I don't know much about Rauscher, so it's hard for me to say, what he's going to do or how much of it. It's not like coach is coming in that I know the background of or what kind of scheme he has. Sperano, you knew a little about what he was all about, but I don't know. But it is my number one concern. It's still the offensive line.
Okay.
And what concerns me about it is, I did a lot of draft research on Wyatt Davis and Darisaw. And I might add that out of all 295 people that I researched in the draft, Wyatt Davis was one of, I think, 3 players who had 0 flaws on my flaw line.
Really?
Yeah. Jamar Chase was another one. I didn't see any flaws in his game, the wide receiver. I think the Dolphins took him, guy from LSU. But Davis when he's healthy, he does nothing wrong. He's good in every facet of being an offensive. He's grinding offensive lineman. And Darisaw is really good himself. But when I say this, I lead in by saying that's just on paper. Look what we've had on. We had Elflein, Khalil. This on paper doesn't mean jack shit until you get in there and start doesn't mean anything until you get in there and play. And we all know that. We watched enough seasons of Vikings on paper stuff. It's still a concern to me until it starts rolling and I see what it's going to turn into. But Chris just mentioned the high draft picks, and there's a lot to be said up there about, if you're talking potential, this line could be very special. But it's still my number one concern because it's so important on a team. Is there anything more important except the guy that touches the ball at quarterback? The offensive line is it.
I would agree. And you had mentioned briefly your other 2. Go ahead and recap those again before we
defensive line, because it was so poor last year. And I know we've had a lot of changeover. We got some free agents coming in. It looks like a complete makeover for the defensive line, and a makeover in the good way. It looks like it could be pretty good, but still untested. And I'm unsure. I'm unsure that other defensive end spot minus Hunter. I'm unsure about Hunter. I am. He hasn't played. But he hasn't played last year.
True, but he took last year. He didn't even. I don't think he even practiced, but 2 or 3 times in training camp. This year he was on the field, first practice, full go. So that's good. Very encouraging.
Offensive line, defensive line. You know me, Ted. We've discussed a lot of football. That probably doesn't surprise you because that's where football's won and lost. I'm old school.
Sure is.
You can call me old school. You can call me old man. You can call me You look like that guy that owns the Jurassic Park Island. I know I look like it. That's fine. That's fine. But it's all in the trenches, and those are my two concerns. My other one has to be Kubiak at the coordinator spot, being he's never done it before. Yeah. That is a huge concern with me, guys. I'm really worried about it. It's not as easy as you think, and it's easy to crumble under that pressure. And if it crumbles, it doesn't matter who we have, weapons on the offense. If that crumbles, the play calling crumbles, we got a huge friggin' problem on our hands.
Yep.
And I'm worried about it. I am worried about it. So convince me that Kubiak's the guy. You tell me.
Well, for my three pressing questions, that was my first one was, can Clint Kubiak call a good game?
Okay, there you go.
And we have seen recent examples of success and failure for first-year offensive coordinators. Kevin Stefanski, I thought, did a pretty good job in 2019. John DeFilippo did a less than stellar job in 2018. I don't know. I think Clint Kubiak is better prepared because he had his dad, Gary Kubiak, and Gary Kubiak steered a very good Vikings offensive ship last year. They were 11th in points and 4th in total yards. So he has the weapons and the assets to have this a very dynamic and exciting offense. I hope he opens it up a little bit more, and lets the playmakers make plays. Go ahead, Drew.
No, I wanted to let you get your point across, but learning from his dad's very conservative, Ted. So is he just bringing more of that along with him? That's my concern to that statement. If you're saying, well, he's ready and he's ready to play, and he had his dad likes to run the football and doesn't like to take any chances either. So if Clint comes in and does that, I don't want to see that. The problem with the Vikings offense is they didn't take enough chances and they're not aggressive enough. Be more aggressive.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And I hope Clint does that. So we'll see. I think that's a huge question mark. You guys talked about the O-line and the D-line and all those other position groups, and those are vitally important. But how does it all come together with the coaching staff and installing the game plan? And this is where I think keeping Rick Dennison on is going to help. Much like Gary Kubiak could sort of mentor and guide Kevin Stefanski, and that really worked. I mean, there was really no Gary Kubiak for John DeFilippo in 2018, and that sort of fell apart pretty fast. So if you got a guy, and Dennison, you can say what you want about his development of the offensive line here in Minnesota, and they're legitimate criticisms. But he's got a wealth of knowledge on offense, and he installed a pretty doggone good run game plan for the Vikings. So maybe just having his philosophy and a guy to just bounce ideas off of and look at film and just come up with ways to attack defenses is going to be a net good thing for the Vikings. I think and hope it will be.
Can Clint stand up to Zimmer though, Ted, and tell him,
no,
we're not going to sit on the ball at 17-10 halfway through the third quarter and try to milk this thing out for a victory. We need to pounce.
If Gary Kubiak didn't or couldn't, do you think Clint will?
No.
That bothers me.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still Mike Zimmer, head coach. Mike Zimmer, when he says run the ball, run the ball. So we'll see. Well, I hope maybe Zimmer will be more open to a more diverse offense, open up the playbook a little bit more, but we're not going to find out until we get to the game. So we'll see. My second one is kind of an overall defense. How long does it take for the defense to gel? There are a lot of new faces again, just like there were last year. The main difference between last year and this year is that they're almost all defensive vets, and a couple of them have played for the Vikings before, and Stephen Weatherly and Mac Alexander. You've brought in Bashad Breeland, Patrick Peterson, Xavier Woods, Weatherly, and again Mac Alexander. So those are five guys that didn't play with the Vikings last year that are going to have to come together. And oh, by the way, you're bringing back Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, and Daniil Hunter, who of those three players played a combined 2 games last year. So you're looking at like 8 or 9 guys that have not played together either ever or in more than a year. So how does that all come together during training camp with a truncated preseason? You only got the 3 preseason games now. and then the 17-game regular season.
That is some really, really great knowledge, man. You're bringing it. Bring it.
And then finally, whoever the kicker is, can he hit water if he falls out of a friggin' boat? Because I don't know.
It doesn't matter with this team, Ted. It doesn't matter.
You know, they signed Riley Patterson as an undrafted free agent. He's on the active pup list. He's hurt. Whatever. So they're going to bring in somebody. I just want a kicker that doesn't make me chew my fingernails down to the first knuckle when he lines up for a field goal. That's all I want. I want a guy that when the Vikings score a touchdown, I can get up and go to the bathroom and grab a beer with a reasonable assurance that the extra point is not going to be missed. That's all I want. I like the offensive line. I just want him to not suck. I want my kicker to not suck. That's all I want. That's all I want.
Just don't suck.
Is Kai Forbath still out there? I mean, yeah, we should have never moved on from that guy in the
Who is the kicker right now?
Greg Joseph.
Greg Joseph and then Riley Patterson.
Has Greg Joseph ever kicked in this league?
Yeah, he kicked for the Browns a couple years ago. I think he went like 17 out of 20.
Yeah, that's reassuring, Chris. He kicked for the Browns.
Hey, it's better than not kicking at all, I guess.
Wow. Yeah, I've never even thought about the special teams of the kicking, but Ted's got a good point, man. That's something that's, well, maybe going into it shaky means it's going to, karma-wise, it's going to work out to our advantage. You know,
and Mike Zimmer, like, can we just keep the head coach away from the kicker?
Oh,
just don't talk to him. Or just, when you do, just be pleasant. Hi, kicker, how are you today? Everything going okay? That's all you got to do. Special teams coach says you're doing fine. Keep it up.
Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick to the kicker. I mean, you know, that's all we can ask. I don't think it's just like the offensive line. I don't think it's a big ask, but you know, we can hope.
You know, what's funny is one of our over/under questions towards the end, towards we get close to the kickoff at the Bengals, Ted, will be a field goal question. So everybody needs to study up on their field. I got an over/under for that. So
unless it's single digits, it's under. Unless it's single digits, it's under.
Oh, I'm just throwing it out there. I think I'm going to use that one the last week so people will go, oh my God, why does he have to do this the last week?
All right. We've been going at this almost not quite an hour. So I think we're about
ready to wrap. That's what she said.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
All right, Chris, why don't you wrap it up? Any final thoughts? What are you looking to see? Any position groups, players? What are you looking at as training camp gets underway and progresses as we get towards the first preseason game and then the season?
Yeah, you know what Drew touched on earlier. I'm kind of looking forward to the defensive line, seeing what the younger guys do, seeing how they can feed off of the veterans a little bit, figure out who's going to be starting at that other defensive end spot. For the defensive line, probably the wide receiver battle. Those are probably the two biggest ones I'm going to be keeping an eye on from the perspective of training camp.
All right, for me, I'm going to be looking at wide receiver 3. I know Dede Westbrook is coming off injury. I'm keeping an eye on Christian Darrisaw and Wyatt Davis. They were both injured last year, so they're kind of nursing their way back to health. I hope they progressively ramp up and are ready to go. Daniil Hunter's another guy I'm keeping track of. For everybody that joined us tonight, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I didn't get to answer a whole lot of comments, but I was keeping tabs, and I'll circle back once we're done here. Appreciate all the support. Thanks for Ruby for putting this together. Drew, why don't you give us our final thoughts and take us home, brother?
Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight to our live show. And Ted, we have another one next week, right? The 4th?
Yep, another live show a week from tonight. I believe that's August 4th. I don't have a calendar in front of me. Same bat time, same bat channel.
So let's all meet back here. Let's all meet back here next week for the same time on the 4th, and we'll have another over/under then. What I'm mostly looking forward to is actually, this is my crew right here. I'm looking forward to the season, baby. This is Ted Glover, Christopher Gates. This is what you're going to see after the game. The post-game shows are going to be wild. They're going to be crazy, and they're going to be wild. I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Redundant, but still good.
I love talking football with you guys. I always learn something from you guys. But I just want to tell everybody, thanks for the support, but stay tuned. We got a lot more coming out. We got a lot of prizes. A lot of games, and this is a show that gives back. And we'd like always have your uptakes on what we should do better, what we could work on. But in terms of the Vikings, I'm pretty excited about the Vikings this year, guys. I mean, this is my 51st year as being a Viking fan. I started in 1970, but all the offseason moves the Vikings have made, I'm excited more now than I was last year. I mean, it seems like they're coming in with a lot of questions, but they're coming in with a lot of firepower also. So this is kind of exciting for me.
Yes, it is.
Agreed.
So I don't know if I took it home officially, but
that's good. You did fine. Super.
Yeah, it works.
Right there, baby.
That'll about wrap it up for this edition of Vikings Report, our post game edition live. We're still looking for a name. If you got a good name that you think we should call the show, and again, we're not going to do the Bodie McBowface contest like they did a few years. We're not going to be showing McShowface. Got a good name? Put it in the comments. If we like it, we'll send you a prize. Maybe a salt and pepper shaker. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Look, we're not just BSing you. We have those. Look, Vikings on one side and S&P on the other. What do the S&P stand for, Christopher Gates?
Super Bowl.
Probably, I would imagine salt. Is it pepper or peppa?
Peppa.
I'm not sure. Peppa.
We got salt and pepper. We got a watch. We got a flask. We got a watch. We got a money clip. We got a tie chain. We got a keychain.
It's like Home Shopping Network.
We got a freaking credit card. You want a Viking credit card?
No.
Then you tune in. No, we can't give that away.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate it. And we will see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, for another